go ahead and submit them in the chat box so that we can get to them. And lastly, if for whatever reason you get bumped off, you're not able to get back on, this event is being live streamed on our YouTube page. Just go to YouTube and search for Pitch Breakfast, as well as our Facebook page, which should be facebook.com/pitchbreakfast. We're going to start here in just a minute. Again, please keep yourself on mute. All right, so good morning and welcome everyone to Pitch Breakfast. Looks like we've got people still coming in, but we're going to go ahead and get started to make sure that we stay on track. So this event, if you haven't been to it before, is Pitch Breakfast, where entrepreneurs pitch and panelists enrich. We have a lineup of 3 great companies today, as well as our panel partners over at Idea Fund Partners, who are going to provide feedback and provide a learning opportunity, not just for the companies, but also for you in the audience, whether you are a startup founder, whether you work for a startup, or whether you work with another company and want to learn more about how startups operate and how to be a better presenter of that information. These events are brought to you by a handful of partners that we really appreciate for all of their support that they give to the Charlotte entrepreneurial community. And these include these companies that you see down here at the bottom. The first of these is Spengler and Agins, who are attorneys for the Charlotte startup and small business community. They can help with anything from getting started to getting ready for funding, and are really great people to ask for advice or information on anything legal regarding your startup. Also, we have NK Patent Law, which is another law firm that specializes only in trademarks, patents, intellectual property, anything having to do with IP. They're specialists in this. And even if you were to go to Spengler and Agins and ask an IP question, they're going to refer you over to NK Patent Law. So a great company to talk to if you are considering starting an idea and trying to figure out how to get it protected. Then we have Dual Boot Partners, which works with management teams to build digital platforms. Dual Boot has been an immense supporter of Pitch Breakfast, and they've helped lots of Charlotte startup companies get their software off the ground, get it out of MVP, or build the MVP, get it out of that stage and on to bigger exits. They're fantastic partners to talk about pretty much anything having to do with your digital product, how to get it built, how to get it developed, and how to get it scaled up. We also have our partners at Powderly Vuchnik CPAs, amazing CPA partners. They've been ours for years now, helping with Pitch Breakfast and taxes and bookkeeping and all of that. If that's something that you're still doing yourself, definitely want to give them a call and let them take a look and be able to help you with all of those. We also have TriNet. TriNet Solutions provides HR solutions in the cloud for small to large businesses. If you're getting to that point where you've got 3 employees or more, and you're starting to deal with things like payroll, compliance, benefits, anything like that, all the way to larger scale companies, TriNet has a solution for you. Great people to talk to if you want to learn more about how to manage these things from the cloud. And last but not least, Foundry, our tenant and advisory team that works with entrepreneurs, works with small businesses to find and also save a lot of money on real estate. Really well known for having a lot of these sort of modern, / restored cotton mill type buildings, really creative spaces that a lot of startups really like to gravitate to. Foundry does a great job of identifying those and really highlighting those in their portfolio. And also really just great people to work with if you've got any questions about real estate, about going through that process. It can be very daunting for companies as they scale up, and having a partner like Foundry really helps. We want to say a big thank you to all of these companies. Also, a quick reminder that please keep yourself on mute and keep your camera off for the time being. You're going to have the opportunity to turn those back on for the networking portion. All right, when you've got several of your partners as attorneys, you end up with a legal disclaimer, and ours is that Pitch Breakfast is an event that is educational in nature. Companies that are pitching are practicing, not conducting a securities offering, and none of the companies pitching intend for this to be a general solicitation. So when you hear them ask for money, they're actually just practicing. They're not actually asking you in the audience for money. However, if you want to give them money, feel free to schedule a meeting with them yourselves. With that, we're going to dive into our pitches, which are going to follow the following format. Each presentation is going to be 2 minutes. They're not going to use slides. So this is going to be more like an elevator pitch, right? You don't have slides. You've only got 2 minutes, and that's how long each one's going to be. Then we'll have 13 minutes of feedback and questions from our panel partners at Idea Fund Partners. Today from Idea Fund Partners, we have Chris Langford, who is a partner and also works with the hub up in Davidson. And so it's kind of our local, one of our local Idea Fund Partner representatives here in town, working with a lot of entrepreneurs, and also someone that you could always hit up with any questions about getting funding and scaling your business. And then also Chris Halligan, who I think has been with us since the very beginning, one of Pitch Breakfast's favorite panelists. He is the operating partner at Idea Fund Partners and also partner and COO at Pazers. So we are very happy to have you both here. You guys can go ahead and turn your cameras on before we dive into that. Chris and Chris, thank you guys for joining us.
Thanks for having this one. Yeah.
And today we've got 3 companies, Dream Leader, Swipe By, and Smart Girls HQ. They're going to be joining us. So to kick things off, we're going to open up mics and unmute here for Dream Leader. We got Dane. There he is.
Hey.
And with that, we're going to get started. Again, this is a 2-minute pitch. Laura's going to turn her camera on. I'm going to give you the markers for 1 minute and 30 seconds, tell you when to stop. And with that, we'll get it started. Everybody ready?
I think so.
All right. Dane, take it away.
Hey, thanks. Thanks, Juan. Hey, everyone. Our product is called Redocked. It's by Dream Leader. Dream Leader is the company. Redocked is like a play on words for document or docking something, like pinning it to a system. And we built a knowledge management platform. We focus specifically on capturing knowledge from the front end and the back end of the software development lifecycle. So we're very focused on software development teams or client services teams. That's our market, our initial market, with a secondary market of college students that could use the product as well. The product takes in data from all sources, so it's files, but also shareable links, meeting notes, wikis, how-tos, abouts, and we put it in a seamless way. What differentiates our system from a lot of the platforms out there is, like SharePoint, Confluence, and some of the other competitors out there, ours is a no design system. There is no design, there's no editing, there's no publishing, there's no templates. It's a seamless profile page for each project. So it's very easy to toggle between different projects and quickly understand what's going on. We are planning to be a SaaS model. In long 5-year chunks is kind of what we're looking at. We've seen that starting to grow in the market right now, where you can be a SaaS model, but you can have like 5-year increments where you have a dedicated commitment for a product like ours. We right now are having a soft launch, which is closed soft launch, where we're partnering with testers and partners right now with our MVP. We are asking for $350,000 to grow the product team, to prepare for marketing, to do a full public go live for our product once it is out of MVP into MSP, minimally sellable, and to grow our user base over the next 1.5 years. We are the company to do this. We have over 10 years experience for myself, but over 30 years experience of knowledge management. We have a team of 5 fully bootstrapped. We've raised over $50,000 to get the MVP off the ground. And so we'll make good use of your money. And that's it. Thanks so much for your time.
Awesome. Thanks, Dane. Right on time.
All right.
Setting the tone.
Chris, I'll let you go first.
Good. Hey, Dane, that was really well done, man. That was a good presentation. And you included a lot of information in what you said. You specified SharePoint and Confluence as alternatives that people might consider. What are things about Redocked that are better than or different than Confluence? Like, make that come alive for me a little bit, please.
That's a great question. Yeah, like I mentioned, it's a seamless design. So every project page, every team page that you work on with your teams is laid out the same way, even if your content is different. So that way, as your system grows, it becomes like more consistent and you can use that data. Whereas systems like Confluence and SharePoint, as those systems grow, those spaces are disparate and they're different. And so it becomes more cluttered over time. So we become essentially more powerful as the system grows because we're comparing apples to apples. It's very similar to the Facebook versus MySpace problem, whereas MySpace said everyone can design their own page and make it look whatever they want, like what they want it to look like. Facebook said everyone's profile structure is going to be the same, but your content is what makes it unique. And that way there's a lot of power in sharing that data. But we're doing that for projects, not people. So we're taking those projects and making it seamless.
Yeah. So would you characterize the people that you're trying to sell to as people who have declined to take on something like SharePoint or Confluence because it's too heavy and too expensive? Or is it people who have taken that on and found, wow, this is unwieldy and I need something that's a little more standardized with a UI that's easier for my people to use over and over?
Yeah, I think it's more of the former. I think SharePoint's baked in a lot of times into the Microsoft suite, like Confluence as well. It's kind of baked into Jira. People are like, hey, if you want to upsell and get Confluence with Jira, you can do that. And so it's always this additive product that people add on. There are competitors now like Asana, Notion that try to merge project management and knowledge management together. And we're not trying to do that. We're trying to focus solely on the knowledge management piece where you can still keep your Jira or Trello or Write, but you may still have a knowledge management problem where you have a Google Drive or you have something that's exploding and you need a knowledge management solution, but you don't want to commit to Asana or Notion.
Okay, good. Chris, you want to jump in?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I thought you did a good job of within 2 minutes hitting on a lot of the things we want to hear about.
Thank you.
I think one of the things that I'd love to hear that wasn't part of it is like, help me visualize the problem that you're solving. As you mentioned, there's Jira, there's Confluence. My head immediately went to Asana. But there are lots of ways to organize and manage projects and knowledge, et cetera. I'd love to hear what problem it is that you're actually solving in the market.
Right. No, that makes great sense. We are trying to focus on a niche right now, which is if I don't want to go to an all-inclusive platform like Asana, a lot of times there's a lot of companies, a lot of startups as well that are using Trello. They're using maybe Jira, maybe that's too heavy, but a lot of Trello users, a lot of Rike users that are saying, I have a startup, I have a team of 5 people, I have a team of 10 people that I love the lightweight feel. I don't want to commit to some heavy enterprise system. And ours is a great complement to that. It's very lightweight, it's very seamless, and it allows you to link out to some of your Google Drive or your Office files, but also link to all your other things like Sketch and Vision, or even upload PDFs, Word, hard files and soft files. So it's a lightweight tool, the lightweight feel of Trello, but it is a complement to something like that. So if you're not ready to commit to Asana, we hear Asana a lot of times is too expensive, or Notion the same way, because they have to merge project management and knowledge management. And a lot of customers want to keep their way of working, but they need a way to organize now. And we think this is the way to do it.
So the folks who you're going after are people who need project management, right? And who want to have a seamless interface, and for whom SharePoint, Asana, and Confluence are too big and complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
That's right.
How big of an audience is that?
It's anywhere from 35 to 85 million people, users, and that's based on Trello. It's based on using Trello and Wrike and a couple of the other products out there that don't have a complement knowledge management product. So Jira can't be included in that. Asana can't be included in that. And Notion can't be included in that because those are project management softwares that have either built-in knowledge management or they have a sister product like SharePoint or Confluence that is already in that market. So outside of that, there's still 35 to 85 million active users that are using Trello, Wrike, or something else where they're still using Google Drive. They're using maybe one of these old platforms that they don't want to be on. There's a lot of times I've talked to teams that they're even using Jira, which is even more structured and more enterprise, and they still don't want to use it. So they use like Dropbox, I think it's called Paper, and some of these other Envision spaces that they're trying to use because they don't want to commit to these heavy enterprise knowledge management systems.
Have you thought about go-to-market? Have you thought about how you're gonna, because like the space that you're addressing, it's a real problem, and it's such a real problem. And there's a whole lot of companies that are trying to address it.
There are, yeah.
And it's crowded,
It is, yeah.
And
that's right.
And if you ask most people, tell me the difference between SharePoint, Confluence, Asana, and Trello, they would just decline. They would just, I don't want to dig into that, like the details at that level. They would say, I'll just pick one and move on. So like, how do you suppose you'll get in front of prospective users in a way that'll be economical and will have scale?
Yeah, breaking in, is tough because there are so many baked-in products. That is the difficulty. So we are focused specifically on small startups, someone that teams that aren't committed with, Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, Confluence, all these enterprise things that are already baked into their pricing and their SaaS models for the next year forecasting. So a lot of smaller teams we're getting in with, and also, like I mentioned, our secondary market is college students. The tool can actually be worked really well for taking notes in class and putting content in there, not just files, but even link shares to other documents and things like that. And we feel if we can get in these younger companies and also college students, they will also bring it into the marketplace, because we're in it for the long term. We're not in it to just see if it happens, really quickly. So we know if we can get in some of these and grow with them, those small startups and these companies using smaller tools like Trello or Write or even Jira at this point, and have it committed to the big enterprise, I think we will listen to the market and grow with them.
And Dane, we do have a quick question here. What research have you done to validate this idea? And that is from somebody in the crowd.
Sure. No, that's a great question. Like I mentioned, we've been doing it. I've been in some form of knowledge management actually for over 10 years now. And so what I've done over my work history essentially is within Confluence, within SharePoint, within even like other server spaces and things like that. I've had to build out these knowledge management systems using these platforms before. So I've seen what works, what doesn't, what makes it seamless, what makes what works to speak languages, not just in a development team, but how could a salesperson look at another project and resell it to another client just by using the content from a software development team? How could a project manager look at a project and see that? So to be able to speak the same language across the system, I've been doing that and building these spaces, making them seamless, making them easy to use, easy to understand, not overwhelming you with content over and over again for all of the organizations essentially that I've worked for, either as my full-time job or as a part-time job on the side, and really validating a lot of these things with real-world experience.
Great. And then Chris, we have about a little bit over 2 minutes left if you guys have any final questions.
So Dane, I think that like you seem like an extremely sharp person, and in looking at your background, it's apparent that this is a tool that you wish you had when you were a Scrum Master at some of the jobs you've had in the past, right?
Sure, yeah,
and
absolutely.
Like a lot of times that's a great formula for success when someone who makes something that they needed. This is a crowded space. The entry price points are really low. Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, the value proposition that you articulated was good, but not so differentiating and compelling that I think you'd have an easy time finding early traction. And so my suggestion to you, if you pursue this, is try and find a niche where the benefits that Redoct offers are so compelling and so meaningful. It could be the smallest niche. Dude, it can be University of Georgia Business School. Like it can be something teeny tiny that you can own, where your benefits are so compelling that people adopt it because it's just instantly better for them. Because I think in your case, if you attempt to go broad, it's going to be frustrating.
Yep.
Right. You're going to get a lot of positive feedback that doesn't result in signups.
Yep.
Right. And that's the worst feedback in the world, because it stimulates you to keep going, but it doesn't give you money. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the worst. And so I think I don't know if you're onto something with the product or not, but I think that the market you're addressing is going to present a lot of challenges.
Sure. No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, do you guys hear me now?
Yes, I was going to have you do a check. Yes,
I was noticing. I'm like, I think something's going on.
We're just ignoring you, Chris.
Yeah, right.
That's fine. Hey, I'm used to it.
Do you have any final thoughts, since you did have audio issues? Did you have any final parting words?
I thought when we started digging in a little bit more, you started, like when you said software developers and college students during the pitch, it felt like a little bit random about who your customers were. I like the way you stitched it together in the sense of these, startup software developers teams and college students are two people that maybe don't have access to enterprise level tools today.
Yep.
And the idea is you want to acquire people kind of pre-enterprise and grow with them as they sort of develop their knowledge management needs. I think that's a good element to kind of bring back in, because again, my original thought was I'm not so sure he knows who his customer is yet, because these are two incredibly different segments. And so I get a little worried about how he's going to go and acquire them, or how expensive his customer acquisition is going to be from day one. So I like the fact that you distilled that down in the end. But I agree, it's a crowded space. I think being able to talk about your differentiation, whether that's downstream, whether that's cost or features, is going to be a real key for you, because I do think many investors or people who are knowledgeable about this space are immediately going to start ringing up all the different knowledge management systems they use or access these days. And so I do think kind of hitting on that within the conversation is going to be important. But
right. Yeah, I would really echo that. I took a course one time on positioning at the University of Michigan, where they said, in what context can you describe your company as the only, right? The only, and that's really challenging to be the only. But if you can be the only for something, that defines a market you could potentially dominate.
Right.
There's a great book called Play Bigger on that subject, if you ever want to read about defining a market where you are the only person who does something.
Awesome. Well, that's time for the questions. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
If anybody has any other questions for Dane or for Chris and Chris, drop them in the chat. Or remember, we are going to have a networking portion where you'll have a chance to chat with Dane and all of the other founders here right after the event. So thank you so much, Dane.
Thanks, Juan.
Have fun at the party that it sounds like you're at. We look forward to seeing more in the future of Dream Leader.
Awesome. Thank you.
So with that, a couple quick announcements before I bring on the next company. The couple events that are going on here that might be great opportunities for you if you are an investor or an entrepreneur. So one is Venture South is having their event this week. I can't put up the information for that event yet because it's invite only, but if you are an investor and are a prospective angel investor and want to learn more about this local angel investment group that is part of a network that covers the entire Southeast, you can go to venturesouth.vc/Charlotte and learn a little bit more about that. That event is later this week. And then there's also Pitch Space, which is a new online platform for North Carolina companies that connects investors and entrepreneurs. They have an event that's also going to be virtual on August 13th. And it is at pitch-space.com. But it's an opportunity for entrepreneurs. Maybe if you've come on Pitch Breakfast and you've had a chance to practice, then you get to go and do that event on in front of some investors from all around North Carolina. And we've got some comments on that. Looks like there's another event in November. Oh, sorry. Yeah, August 13th. That's wrong. So it's going to be in November. I'll update it with the correct event here in a little bit. So with that, we're going to go back to our companies and have the founder of Swipe By come on. So you can go ahead and turn your camera on, Carl.
Can you hear me?
All right, we can hear you.
Cool.
And Laura, if you're ready with the timer, cool. Take it away, Carl.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Carl Turner. I'm the founder of Swipe By. The off-premise food market was pre-COVID already a $490 billion industry, growing significantly year over year. And while that is a pretty big market, we are also seeing pretty big challenges, especially in suburban and commuter markets. In those markets, you can relate, delivery is very expensive to consumers, almost absurd to restaurants. Drive-through is infrastructurally not possible for every type of restaurant. And pickup, even with curbside service that you see everywhere right now, normally consists of there's a phone number laminated to a parking cone that you then need to call, which generally doesn't help anyone and creates more problems, even though you ordered online. Swipe By brings a solution to this problem by turning any restaurant into a virtual drive-through with our turnkey curbside pickup platform and geo-fenced arrival notifications. We're a 360 merchant tool, from web ordering plugin to consumer-facing aggregator apps and data and marketing analytics. We launched in 2019, in May 2019, and because we saw the huge investments in curbside and click and collect by Target, Walmart, and all of these type of brands, and with Swipe By now, any restaurant as well as smaller retailer can offer that level of convenience to their customers and tap into the same sales channel. Today, we partner with hundreds of restaurants across 25 states. We're adding about 15 restaurants a week. In Q2 this year, we processed over $1 million in GMV. And our business model is really simple. We are charging restaurants the market lowest 4.5% plus 45 cents per transaction. And that net yields approximately $1.50 in revenue on our side. We raised to date $1 million. That's how we got. And today I'm here for two things. Number one, everyone in the audience can invest right now, just $100 or more in a public crowdfund campaign. Best way to probably just Google Swipe By. And for our institutional investors, we're looking to close our first round in early November, our first institutional round. I mean, in early next year. Thank you.
Hey, Carl, good job. I know we've dug in a little bit on your company in the past, but I think just for the conversation. So obviously there's some really large players that are just growing and growing and growing when it comes to delivery or even the order ahead, Grubhub and all the likes. So is the differentiation that you bring to the table that is it really centered around cost for the restaurant? Is that the main difference?
No, so it's, if you ask, what are we the only ones in, to bring it back to that point?
Yeah.
We are the only ones who are a turnkey curbside service solution. Grubhub, DoorDash, Uber Eats, ShowNow, Toast Takeout, Menufy, and yes, I could name 1 million more players that play in the takeout market in a way, are all mostly web-based solutions that are focused on pickup and that are focused on delivery, one of the two. And we are more mobile focused, and with that we use the power of geofencing. I think that's the number one differentiator, and that's where we're the only in, meaning turnkey plus curbside service. There are other curbside service players, but they are more enterprise SDK models that McDonald's integrates in their app, Walgreens integrates in their own app. And then certainly on the price thing, that is also very, very where we do differentiate. We don't have the standard $200 a month SaaS model that ShowNow has. Neither do we have the 30% revenue share that an Uber Eats has, because we can take so many costs out of the equation with our model by still providing a hybrid convenience solution, which is, not the same as delivery, but actually in suburban markets often more convenient than delivery.
Yeah. So then the two big questions are, one, do the restaurants themselves have any operational changes that need to take place, operational or technical changes? Like, are there any complexities to the implementation of your solution? And then the second one that I'd go to is, how do you create consumer discovery of the opportunity? Obviously, these other apps, they charge a lot, but they have a lot of people that are already kind of on that network. So they're bringing customers to the platform as well. Like, how do you do that?
Let me start with the second part of the question. So we are strictly B2B. We don't sell B2C, and that is reflected in our pricing, right? So why does Uber Eats charge 30%? It's actually, they charge 2 times 15%. They charge 15% a marketplace fee, which you get also charged as a restaurant for pickup, and then they charge a 15% delivery fee, right? And that then combines the 30%, meaning marketplace fee. Exactly, they invested billions in marketing, so they have a marketplace of users. Our pricing model feels for free to restaurant. It's like credit card fees, right? It's virtually insignificant. And with that, and then we have a web plugin and the rest, so we can process orders through the website too. And then we have like cross-platform tracking. So the moment you order on the web, if you're logged in your phone, long story short is all our user acquisition happens through the restaurant. And so we are such a low-cost solution, and we share the data with the restaurant. So we're so merchant friendly that the restaurant loses nothing converting all their phone sales, all their current website sales of whatever other service they use, which has not curbside and might be more expensive or similar price, onto our platform. That's the first one. In terms of technical requirements, so we do generally, so we work with a tablet that then can though connect to any modern IP kitchen printer. So we are not POS integrated, but we handle the menu upload. Cost us about $50 for a restaurant, and then obviously a restaurant has a web backend where they can in and update prices. But really, the only thing that a restaurant needs to do is put a tablet in, which yes is not the best solutions in the world, but restaurants are used to it. And the thing is, we need to have it, and that is actually a competitive advantage, is because POS systems, they don't have a speaker. Curbside service arrival notifications don't work without a speaker. If you shoot a little ticket in the kitchen or at the receipt printer that someone is outside, good luck with that, right? So we need to have a physical device in the thing that makes noise and tells you, hey, Chris is outside, you know, in a black pickup Ford or what might be. And but what we are doing to ease operations is our tablet then with Bluetooth can connect to any modern Epson or Star kitchen printer. In addition, restaurants can get a printer from us, buy a printer from us, that also then shoots out the ticket at the kitchen at any station they might need to. But so in theory, a restaurant literally buys an Android tablet, buy one from us, logs in, connects it to their printer, and they're ready to go to accept orders.
Okay.
So, Carl, I've used SwipeBuy.
Hey.
Yeah, totally. And I've at Leroy Fox in South Charlotte uses it, and Eddie's place next door does not. And picking up from Leroy Fox is a whole lot better. It really is. So I have a question. If I'm a restaurant owner and I look out in the future and I see, you know, a third of my business being conducted through some of the big network players like Uber Eats and Grubhub and Postmates and those kinds of guys, what does that do structurally to my economics as a restaurant owner? Are the incremental sales, do they offset the incremental costs associated with those orders? Like, what do the restaurant owners of the world think long-term about those economics?
Sure. Number one, I can send you like 20 articles on it too. So to back up what I'm saying. So don't take my word for it. I'm not a restaurant owner, right? I don't have a restaurant right now. But what we are hearing from, and I mean, that's part of why we are providing. In the end, quite often for delivery economics not work, right? The unit economics for delivery work under the argument that that is a new customer ordering generally, right? So you are saying you have your top line, then after all your cost of food, your operational, the plastic, either at the plastic or hopefully not plastic, something recyclable, but whatever packaging. And then when you subtract the other, the fees out, you quite often land at a negative bottom line, which is fine if you consider your Uber Eats, Grubhub, DoorDash as a marketing expense, which actually a lot of restaurants viewing that at, right? But the reality is that is quite often not true. So we talk to a lot of restaurant owners, they have Uber Eats, they turn Grubhub on. Delivery, and that's why delivery businesses struggle right now, or not right now because of COVID, but have struggled with their unit economics. The order amount doesn't change. It's just now distributed. Then they turn DoorDash on, order amount still doesn't change. Because in the end, people are still going by brand quite often and are not so much, just choosing randomly restaurants on delivery. And obviously, that's not a case in our place where, the unit economics for the restaurant actually work and we convert, top line ends up with bottom line revenue. But so across the board, that is what we're seeing from restaurants. And that is, why we in Denver, as people like it or not right now, have actually an ordinance that requires delivery service to be capped at 15% to the restaurant, right? But I mean, there's a bunch of problems on the unit economics.
Well, because it was a long time ago, and only some of the audience will remember this, but there was an economic phenomenon called Groupon that was going to take over the world. And in some ways, the delivery services remind me of Groupon, and fundamentally, if they add that cost, that has to be reflected in pricing or reduced product costs, right? One way or the other, right? Or these companies aren't going to be able to sustain doing this long term. So do you believe long term that the economic relationship between, a restaurant and, for example, Grubhub or Uber Eats is unsustainable? Do you think in a 10-year view it's unsustainable?
Yeah. All right. Now let's paint big picture. What I think will happen, number one, we see it already, consolidation. Delivery can reduce their prices by batching orders more efficiently, but that's especially hard in suburban markets with lots of restaurants and consumers. So consolidation is number one. Similar how Uber, and kind of butchered it, but if we think about the car sharing, is the entire model is strongly based on, let's think, it's self-driving cars, drones, and autonomous vehicles, right? That takes the driver out of the equation.
Right.
So I think in 10 years, I think some of the things we will have, and that will make delivery sustainable. If we don't have these technologically advances, delivery is not sustainable. Now, big picture. One thing is, so if we think about, what I think there's a huge opportunity for Swipe By actually in the long run, and we're slowly working towards this, but we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, is who manages the interaction of self-driving car, drone, and robot arriving at the curb, right? So in the end if you look at an airport model, you have the airline, Uber Eats, you have the manufacturer, Airbus, Boeing, which is DJI or whoever does the drone, or Tesla who does the car, but then the airport ground control is its entire own operation and business. And in the long term, where we Swipe By See Go is actually from curbside service to continuing curbside service for whatever arrives, all of that thing. So that's, I think, where the future is, where delivery can be sustainable. Right now, it's not.
Sure. Good. Is there anybody out there who does this cheaper than you, or are you the lowest cost guy?
We are the lowest. So no one else does curbside service. I would say a tech play like a Blue Dot, which is a pure geolocation company, is for a McDonald's cheaper in the end because it's so much volume, right? So if you pay a simple API fee or a hefty monthly fee, in the SMB space and mid-market space, we are the cheapest solution for actually across the board for takeout, normal pickup, ordering ahead, plus curbside pickup. And we're, again, the only one who really does curbside geofenced and automated as a turnkey platform.
Sure. And Carl, do you perceive that the customer experience of takeout has fundamentally shifted? So I've got to believe that the explosion of curbside is really centered around, I don't want to go in right now with what's going on, right? I don't want to expose myself to this environment, as opposed to it being exceptionally difficult to sort of walk out of your car, walk up to the bar and grab your takeout. Do you think those behaviors reverse, or do you think that that's kind of here to stay? And I get the long-term, one day everything will be autonomous and we'll measure the curbsides, but say in the 10 years in between those two events, hopefully of the end of COVID and the beginning of a true autonomy, how do you survive there?
Yeah, so very good question. I would say number one is curbside was here before COVID. We started the business in 2019. Walmart, Target has invested billions. McDonald's invested $6 billion in their entire mobile drive-through and curbside pickup infrastructure, all before COVID. Because in the end, in suburban markets, not in New York City, but in suburban markets, curbside is more convenient than actually delivery. It's on your drive. It takes all the hassle out and so on. So that's, I think, the first point, right? Curbside service is not really something that was brought because of COVID. What COVID did, it created customer education overnight. So what we would have spent, or what your companies would have spent millions and billions of dollars over 3 years, happened within a month on customer education. Is curbside here to stay? Again, now computer and consumers are trained. Pickup has been always here, right? And people used to do pickup. If you can get it at your curb, you have kids buckled up in the car, you're on a quick ride, on a commute back home, you are in so many scenarios. It's like not finding parking, not being able to go inside, simply for the restaurant, not having a crowded space inside of people, COVID or not. It's, the one next level of convenience. It's a first world problem, no doubt, but so is a lot of technology these days. We're solving first world problems, right? But it adds a significant level of convenience that still stays there, right? It's not just about spreading, not connecting with people. It's also about having a faster, better pickup experience. And Curbs and COVID just did a customer education event for us.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. We're out of time on questions. Carl, thank you so much. There were a couple questions in the chat. Carl, if you want to hop in there, there were 2 questions there for you. If you could answer them there, or we could do that in the networking. But thank you, Carl, with Swipe By. All right, so we are getting ready here for our last pitch. One event that everybody should know about here coming up soon is the Venture 135 conference. I see somebody from the Packard Place team or from the Venture 135 team posted it in the chat as well. But if you are a local seed or Series A company, doesn't matter which industry, they have an event on day one that is specifically for companies like yours to pitch to over 200 investors. So they're looking for different industries, primarily some underrepresented founders, but they're taking applications that are open right now to anybody in the Charlotte market that is in that sort of seeded Series A that may be interested in pitching at the Venture 135 event. You can learn more about it at venture135.com. So lots of opportunities for you guys to practice your pitch, get in front of investors, and learn more from other people who are doing the same. So with that, we're going to go ahead and set things up for Abi Alukai with Smart Girls HQ. She's going to be our third and final pitcher for today. So Abi, are you welcome? Are you there?
I'm there. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Awesome.
Okay.
Yes, we can see you. We can hear you. Welcome. Whenever you want to get started, Laura will kick off the timer.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Abby Ilkay, founder of Smart Girls HQ. So we asked over 50 parents to rate the importance of STEM education for their daughters. And by STEM, I mean science, technology, engineering, and math. And the average response was a 10. Then we asked the same parents to rate their ability and comfort level in facilitating STEM informal learning, and the average response was a 4. This disconnect between parents' aspirations for their daughters and their ability to foster those interests is an important one to resolve. Why? Because by age 12, girls start to lean away from STEM education at a much higher rate than their male peers because they haven't had enough experiences with it to inspire long-term engagement. That single fact is a key contributor to why we only have 28% of women participating in the STEM workforce, and ultimately impacts the deficit of STEM talent that we have in the US across many sectors. As a mom of 2 girls under age 12 myself, and with my personal experiences over the last 20 years as a student studying computer science undergrad, then as an employee and employer of STEM talent, I understand this pipeline problem well. So to address this, we're building a subscription-based learning platform that delivers 36 modules of STEM informal learning content, optimized for high engagement with girls, and that removes the needs for an expert facilitator. Our modules offer rich hands-on experiences and interactive digital learning around STEM careers, so that with each of our modules, we put every girl on a path to STEM career literacy by age 12. Especially in a pandemic, as parents struggle to fill up their young children's time meaningfully, the availability of a product like this becomes really important. Our very first module became available for pre-orders on October 1st and begins shipping tomorrow, which we're really excited about that. So we're looking to raise $250K to help scale the development of more modules so we can quickly get to our recurring revenue business model in the next 12 months.
I think this may be a record that all 3 finished in under 2 minutes.
Yes.
That makes me happy. But Chris, let's go ahead.
Hey, Abby, great job. I mean, so I'll always say in this format, when you think about the idea of having 2 minutes with an investor, or really any format, the number one goal is to get the next meeting, if you will, or to get a deeper dive. And I think that, while you didn't go through the full-blown every aspect we look for, you piqued my interest, right? I think you set up the problem exceptionally well, and sort of piqued my curiosity. I'd want to say, hey, let me dig in a little bit more. So I think you did a great job on that end. I also have a daughter in that age. She's 12, almost 13, but I've lived that. I guess a couple of questions is, one, you mentioned that you're rolling out module number 1. Has that been pre-sold in any way? Can you explain any of the traction that you already have? So that's one. I think secondarily on that same end is, can you tell me exactly how you're creating awareness for the product and how you're driving kind of those early sales within there?
Yep. So I'll answer question 1 first and then go to 2 because they relate. So when we started on this journey, and the more that we learned about the problem, we realized that if you're going to sell to parents, especially around education and their children, you really have to come off as a subject matter expert. So we spent a lot of time building a brand around being the subject matter expert for parents of girls. So we do connect with parents through our brand, Raising Smart Girls. That's been live for 2 years while we've been doing customer discovery to figure out the product. And ultimately, that's the audience that we're delivering this product to. So we launched the product October 1st just by email and social media. We've sold over 200 so far that we're going to start shipping tomorrow. And one of the exciting things that we got out of the last week and a half of watching the launch response is people reading our value prop back to us, right? Is essentially hearing, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing I've seen in a while. My girls are going to love this. And it's a mix of audience. It's not people that are typically STEM people. It's just the creative aspect of it. And so just to help you understand a little bit, I have like the first one right next to me. So we ship out a box like this. It says, "Dear Smart Girl, you can design and light up a headband with parallel circuits." This one is an electrical engineering module. So all of our modules are going to be wrapped around a specific career, so that we want the girls to know this concept ties to this career, and then give them an activity to explore it. So this particular activity ends up, they get all the supplies to make a headband that looks like this. They can design it the way that they want, but the circuit is all wrapped up inside and they get to light it up. And then, they learn enough about it that they can use that same concept and apply it to other things. And that seems to be really exciting for both the parents and also the children.
Interesting. Yeah, I've done like the snap circuits and other robotic
exactly.
kits
There's
and
a lot
things
of
like
robotics.
that. So
yes.
Yeah. Well, that helps. I think also the two other things I'd say, and then I'll let Chris kind of jump in, which is the way that you helped me bridge the gap of, hey, we've been operating as an authority within like training and we focused on girl education. I think that's a really important setup to how you then move into kind of selling the product. So I think being able to articulate that is really great. And then also kind of helping me paint the picture of what that product is. My initial thought was something like a Duolingo, like an online module that someone goes through and it's been tailored in some form or fashion.
Both. Yeah.
Where I learn, but now that I see it's actually interactive kits and things like that, I think that paints an entirely different picture and opens up a bunch of other questions for me, but I'll let Chris kind of jump in on that.
Yeah. So it was a good presentation. Thank you. The idea is you're going to sell these boxes, like the Dear Smart Girl on your website is an example, and there's going to be a series of those, correct?
Yes.
Good. And each time there's some related craft that the kid would do and all that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like a great opportunity to cultivate community, right? Because like obviously these are children are going to make things, and there's going to be things to look at and that sort of deal. What sort of community aspect do you intend to build along with this?
Yeah, so that's really why we started out with Raising Smart Girls, is really to be able to make that the community space. So our plans for our website is to incorporate the digital learning component. So with more funding, we're able to really execute on our vision. But the idea is that our website has all of the community aspects where parents can connect to each other and can kind of do these maker dates. One of the fun things we saw in our pre-launch conversations is people buying it for a group of girls to do Zoom calls and do it together. So that's already naturally happening, and we want to be able to facilitate that with our platform as well.
Sure. And you say you've sold 200 of these of the initial electrical engineer model. You've already sold module. You sold 200 of those.
Yeah.
And those are $40 each. Is that right?
Yep.
Great. And do you maintain inventory of those, or do you make them after they're sold?
So we had our initial goal for the first month, because really honestly we've been so busy building it that we haven't really spent too much time figuring out how we're going to get it out there, except for we know that we have our audience, was to sell 100. So we just prepared to sell 100. And so now we did obviously go a little bit over that to be prepared in case we went over. But now we're managing inventory. One thing that's important to note is my career experience for 13 years in technology was actually in a manufacturing firm. So I'm very comfortable with distribution and logistics in that sense. So a lot of my operational excellence work is coming right back, and we're starting to put in a flow of making sure that we have inventory in place to fulfill orders as we go. So right now we're planning for holiday sales to make sure that we're prepared to cover those. So
I wanted to offer an observation. Your company is a little different than the other two companies that we've heard this morning, in that there's more of a mission associated with what you're doing than with the other two, which are just sort of straight hey, I'm a business and I'm here to sell you my stuff. I think that fundraising, when you're in a mission-oriented business, is especially challenging.
I agree.
Because a lot of times, sounds like you've experienced that. Because a lot of times what you'll do, what an entrepreneur will do, is they'll go see the usual suspects, like, for example, Idea Fund, and say, hey, here's my business, and they'll sort of put it up, for consideration. And you don't realize it, but you're in competition with lots and lots of other people who really they have a mission, but it's not a mission in the sense they're trying to do good, right? They're really just trying to build a successful business. And so I think a lot of times professional investors are, and I'd be interested in Chris's response to this, professional investors are not as apt to take a risk on a mission-driven thing before it has a lot of traction. And so my connected to that observation is this: I think that when you go to raise money, the people that you should target should be folks who really are motivated by your mission, as opposed to the usual suspects in the venture community, or maybe in addition to the usual suspects in the venture community, because there is a person within 100 miles of us who is a very wealthy human who really cares about STEM for young women. And they care about it because of their life story and their career and their background. And, Carl's got a nice pitch, and Swipe By restaurant is fine, but that individual isn't gonna he's gonna be like, fine, Carl, good luck, right? But Avi, you'd be the only one to walk in and touch that person's interest and what they really care about. And so I think if you intend to go fundraise for this business, the most critical thing for you is going to be research to try and find said person.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think if you find 10 humans who meet that description, you're going to get the money. Right. And if you pitch 50 venture firms, you're going to get 50 polite, supportive declines, or 49, a really big ratio. So my advice to you, if you're going to build this as a business, is really select who you target for fundraising.
Yep. Yeah, and I'll agree on that, right? I say, altruism and capitalism don't have to be mutually exclusive. And so when you can find the intersection of those two things, that's great. But, I think even beyond, whether you're mission oriented or not, I think 99% of most businesses should never take money from a venture capitalist, right? Because our expectation is,
totally.
The day you take my money, you've got 7 years to return $25 million to me. And that means reinvesting every nickel that you ever make, plus more, plus putting everything on the line and growing multiple 100%, at infinity. Because all I care about is my exit, right? I need a big exit so that my investors are happy. And it's, you kind of know what you're getting into when you sign up, but those can be very difficult things to manage when you have other ideas of stakeholders and constituents that you want to serve. And so, I think I agree with Chris, which is one, I think most businesses should start off with angels who then can continue to give them flexibility in the capital sources they seek long term, until they collectively agree that it's time to throw the gas on the fire and just throw everything in the middle of the table for the next 7 years and shoot for the stars. Because I think in this scenario, you're better to be capitalized with people who will look at a more balanced scorecard of what the returns on this investment is, who may even be happy with the idea that, you pay them dividend distributions one day and kind of pay them back in that sense, right? Again, that doesn't work for most institutional capital sources. And so I tend to agree on that. And I think, again, if you get 2 or 3 years in and you say, I have the world's largest community of parents interested in STEM education, I've got hundreds of products that I curate, I hold no inventory, I make an affiliate fee on it, I'm an asset light model, I clip a 10% coupon on hundreds of products every month. All of a sudden, then maybe that changes that perspective. But I love what you're doing. I think,
Me too.
I think it's an important element to things. But I agree. I think you can probably find some folks within the community that sort of align on the altruism aspect right now and work on the capitalism long term.
Yeah, and that's the approach that we've taken from the very beginning. Was for that very reason. Is I really, before I took the leap to do this, I studied the path that made the most sense and was most feasible. And what made the most sense to me was one, build the community, sell to that community. And I felt that my time would be probably most productive that way than to try to scan for the impact investors that would work. And I also felt like we needed to get to certain metrics before this could be interesting, just like you said, to an institutional investor. So
Abby, I think a thing that I do sometimes is I'll say to groups if I'm addressing them, is I'll say, I want to describe someone to you, right? And I'll describe the customer I want, right? And I want to know if you're that person or if you can introduce me to that person, right? And if you went to the groups that you're going to get in front of, because you're an engaging presenter and you've got an inspiring message, if you said, listen, I want to describe someone to you. This person's wealthy and they're willing to make an investment in a small company and they care a great deal about STEM and they care about a great deal about STEM specifically for young women, and you know them well enough to introduce me, right? I'd like for you to come tell me their name. If you do that, and by the way, everyone who's here today, right, I extend that challenge to you, right? If you know the person that I just described, I ask you to introduce Abby to them, because like you only need one, right? You only need one. But if you say that to 500 people, you're going to meet 10 targets, and you're going to get the money you want, and it's going to give you the fuel to go to the next stage with your company. So it's great, great presentation. I support what you're doing, and I really hope you're successful.
Thank you. Do you know that person, Chris?
I don't. Good question though. Chris does. He'll tell you after.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Abby. That was a great pitch. There were some comments and questions for you that are also in the chat. It looks like actually some of the questions that they had have been getting answered here in the conversation. So be sure to check that out here in the next couple of minutes. We're going to, you can also ask your questions to Abby as well as the panelists in the breakout rooms, which we're going to start in just a minute. So that you know, you're going to be put into a breakout room automatically. So there's 4 rooms, 1 room for Dream Leader, 1 room for Swipe By, 1 room for Smart Girls HQ, and then a general networking room. Once you're in the room, if you want to switch rooms, so it's just faster to put people in automatically, but if you want to switch, if you've got a question for Abby and you're in Swipe By or something else, then just move out of the room and that'll put you in the lobby, and then I'll